What's up, guys? I hope you can hear me. You need to turn to page 127 in your reader manual. Let's look at the top of this page. It talks about when you're discussing something with your friends or with anyone. It talks about how you're always going to have things that you disagree on. You might, in general, agree on the final outcome of what you want to happen, but your steps to get there may be different. Sometimes you'll disagree on what you want to happen in the end as well. So it talks about one way to strengthen your position, and I'm sure you guys have figured this out by now. If you haven't figured this out, you need to start doing it, is to recognize another person's opinion, state it clearly, and then give evidence to prove why your belief is a better belief. So, sorry, I'm itching a little bit. Anyway, so that's where we are. That by the way, that little argumentative technique will help you with your parents. They'll at least know you're listening to them, then you can prove them wrong. Probably won't work, but it's better than what you probably do anyway. Look on page 127. Look in the middle at the white. It says, figure out the author's point of view about solar power in the paragraph below, then underline the sentence with a conflicting point of view. How does the author respond to it? So conflicting point of view means an opposite point of view, one that has a conflict. So here's the paragraph. Some people claim that solar power is not practical because no energy is generated at night or when it is cloudy. While it is true that solar panels work best in full sunlight and do not generate power at night, there are ways to compensate for these downtimes. Batteries can store energy collected during the day for use at night or on cloudy days. As solar panel and battery technologies continue to improve, solar energy systems will become more efficient and practical. So one thing it said to do, it said to find the conflicting point of view in that paragraph and underline it. You should have underlined the second sentence. While it's true that solar powers work best in full sunlight and do not generate power at night, there are ways to compensate for these downtimes. That's what you should have underlined. Now look at the box below. It says the conflicting point of view is what I just read to you. And then the acknowledgement, while it's true that solar powers work best in full sunlight, we do not generate power at night. Evidence. Number one, batteries can store energy to use at night and on cloudy days. And then number two, solar panel and battery technologies continue to improve. All right, turn to page 128. Not recycling, what's your excuse? By John Ruiz. In 2010, Americans recycled 85 million tons of trash that would have otherwise gone into landfills. While that number is impressive, we still need to convince the people who do not recycle or don't recycle as much as they could to start doing their part. Do either of the following excuses sound familiar? Sending trash to landfills is fine, so why should I recycle? Landfills are still collecting trash, but that solution is far from problem-free. Garbage is tightly packed into landfills, and the lack of air prevents the breakdown of paper and other biodegradable trash. Even when decomposition occurs, it generates methane, a powerful greenhouse gas that adds to global warming concerns. Plastic and other materials that don't break down just pile up in the landfill, creating mountains of trash. Then, too, space for landfills is limited, and no one wants to live next to a landfill that must be built when current space runs out. Next page. Recycling isn't worth the effort. It's easy to think this way since the benefits to the individual are hard to see, but this statement couldn't be further from the truth. Using recycled materials is generally cheaper for manufacturers, which helps keep the cost of goods down for individuals. Recycling reduces air and water pollution and actually uses 3 times less energy than other forms of waste disposal. It preserves natural resources, many of which cannot be replaced for future generations. So, the next time you're tempted to throw a plastic bottle in the trash, think again. Just a little extra effort can produce a lot of good for all Americans. So, back to page 128. What's the author's point of view about recycling? How does the author respond to a point of view that conflicts with his own? Well, obviously, his point of view is that recycling is worth the effort, that it takes a long time to see the benefit of it, but it's well worth the effort. Other than that, we're just filling landfills up with trash, and due to lack of air, things can't break down. Because in the chart below lists 3 pieces of evidence the author provides in response to the conflicting point of view. So I did mine, I always do mine. See here, see there? So number 1, decomposition generates methane. Methane's like, a fart. That's why when you pass by a landfill, it smells so horrible. Next, number 2, plastic and other materials pile up and nothing breaks down because it's buried. There's no air. There are no elements getting to it to decompose it. And the third one, Julie, and the third one, please. Good, that's right. Space is limited. There you go. Because, you're eventually going to run out of place in the earth to put your garbage. Do you want it to be in your neighborhood? Turn to page 129. 129. Espen, this one's for you. You ready, Espen? Circle the correct answer. Which statement best reflects the author's response to the conflicting point of view in the paragraph? Espen? That's it. Yes, C. Recycling is a cheaper, more efficient way to dispose of waste. All right, and then at the bottom, look at the answer you chose above. What evidence does the author give to support his response to the conflicting point of view? Jalen, get your head up. Read your answer. Louder, please. Okay, that's not bad. I'm going to read you mine. According to Jose Ruiz, recycling helps keep the cost of goods down for individuals. It also uses 3 times less energy and preserves natural resources. All right, so there you go. Next page. Realistic Environmentalism by Samantha Ford. But by the way, just look at the title of this, Realistic Environmentalism. Obviously, it's saying right there that we have to be realistic about the things that we can accomplish, and that just because you might not can do something 100% right doesn't mean you can't try and get as much as you can. So, realistic environmentalism. Let's read this. There is a belief in the environmental movement that saving the planet means preventing or reversing the effects that humans have on the natural world. If you don't completely accept this ideal, you are obviously not a good environmentalist. In fact, you might not be an environmentalist at all. While this all or nothing attitude might achieve some victories for the planet, it ultimately undermines the goals of the environmental movement. The bottom line is that this limiting purist definition of environmentalism is simply not realistic. We humans are now the largest force for environmental change on the planet, and we must acknowledge that reality. The choice isn't between changing or not changing our environment. Instead, our choices lie in how we change it. Recognizing this gives us an opportunity to make the planet the best it can be. This means that instead of branding them as enemies, we can use economic and technological development as tools for saving the environment. If, as many scientists believe, burning fossil fuels is driving climate change, it becomes clear that we must develop cleaner technologies to power our lives. If we want to preserve wild spaces, we must find practical, more efficient ways for people to live and food to be grown in limited spaces. The good news is that we have more advanced tools and resources than ever before to help us solve these problems. Of course, identifying possible solutions to problems is easier than working to solve them. Hard choices will need to be made now and in the future. Choices some are not willing to consider. The only way to be true environmentalists, however, is to recognize our power to affect the planet and thus our responsibility to it. So let's look here. Number 1, Mia. What's the author's point of view about the topic of environmentalism in this editorial? Correct. A. It must be realistic to be effective. Look at the title. Duh. Number 2. Dismari, you do number 2. Which statement best describes the point of view that conflicts with the author's? That's right. C. We must reverse the changes that humans have made to the natural world. And then number 3, let's go down there. Explain how the author responds to the conflicting point of view and strengthens her point of view. Use at least 2 details from the text in your response. This is what I wrote. The author states that an all or nothing attitude undermines the goal of the environmental movement. To be kind and mindful of the environment, we must be realistic. As stewards of the environment, we must, quote, use technological development. We must use technological development as a help to the environment, unquote. Overall, we must, quote, find practical, more efficient ways for people to live and for food to be grown in limited spaces, unquote. So that's the reading part you guys had to do. I now need you to turn to page 241. 241, this is gerunds. Done this before? So gerunds is a subject. Remember, a subject is the part of the sentence that performs the action of the verb. A direct object. Remember, a direct object follows an action verb and receives the action of that verb, and it's going to be a noun or pronoun. A predicate nominative. Remember, a predicate nominative is a direct object that follows a linked verb. And then an object of the preposition is a noun or pronoun. It's going to be the last word of a preposition. The last word of a prepositional phrase. Remember, a gerund is a verb used as a noun, and it will always end in ing. That does not mean that every time you see a word ending in ing, you got a gerund. But it does mean that if you have a gerund, it will end in ing. So, look at number 1. Roberto's chorus finds pleasure in performing. Performing is your gerund, and it's the object of the prepositions, the last word of a prep phrase. If you missed it, I want you to fix it right now. Number 2, planning began months ago for their concert. Planning is your subject, and it is a gerund. No one should have missed that. Subjects that's second grade. Shouldn't miss it. Number 3, now the chorus is practicing daily. There are no gerunds there. If you put that practicing is a gerund, it's because you weren't thinking. You saw the ing, you put the answer. The chorus really was practicing. Practicing is used as a verb in that sentence. What are they doing? Practicing. Number 4, they practice harmonizing over and over. Harmonizing is your gerund. It's a direct object. They is your subject. Practice is your verb. What do they practice? Harmonizing, direct object. Number 5, their other important job is advertising. Advertising is your gerund. It's a predicate nominative. It works like this. Job is the subject. Is the verb. We have a linking verb. And advertising is the predicate nominative. Remember, a predicate nominative it's like a direct object that follows a linked verb. 6, singing is something the whole community can enjoy. Singing is your subject, and it's also a gerund. Next page, we're on page 242. So in this one, you have to tell which word is a gerund, and some of them have more than one word in the sentence that ends in ing. So if you just found an ing word and guessed, shame on you. You're lazy. There's no way to be nice about it. Number 1, Miss Santos is directing the chorus, and she loves teaching. The gerund in that sentence is teaching. She is the subject, loves is a verb. What does she love? Teaching. It's being used as a direct object. Direct object's a noun. Teaching is a gerund. Number 2, conducting is something she really enjoys even when she is working long hours. No one should have missed this. Conducting is your subject. It ends in ing. To conduct is a verb. So right here we've got it used as a gerund. The answer is A. 3. We are learning about composing, and Miss Santos' favorite composer of choral music is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The answer is C. Composing. It is the object of the preposition. About composing is your prep phrase. Number 4. During practice, Miss Santos teaches us about breathing. Breathing is the object of the preposition. About is a preposition. About. Breathing is a prep phrase. Object preposition is going to be the last word of prep phrase. It's going to be a noun or pronoun. 5. The most rewarding part of her job is mentoring because Miss Santos loves to help young singers progress. Mentoring is a predicate nominative. Okay. Part is the subject. Is a verb. It is a linking verb. Remember, a predicate nominative. It's basically a direct object that follows a linking verb rather than an action verb. Next, turn to page 255. 255, we did verb moods. You have indicative, imperative, interrogative, conditional, and subjunctive. Number 1, so you had to rewrite each sentence, changing the mood as indicated in parentheses. If it's not too late, I will vote. So you need to make it subjunctive and conditional. The answer is going to be, I would vote if it were not too late. Number 2, will you vote for Harry for president? It's got to be imperative. Vote for Harry for president. You're given a command. Vote for Harry. 3, he commands the stage like a movie star. You need that to be subjunctive. He acts as if he's a movie star, or he commands as if he's a movie star. Number 4, Harry would be an excellent president. It needs to be indicative, meaning it expresses an opinion. Instead of saying Harry would be, say Harry will be. Harry will be an excellent president. Next page. Number 1, if you want an intelligent leader, you should choose Marty. Which revision changes the underlying clause from the conditional to the imperative? The answer is A. Choose Marty. 2, if all the votes have been counted, is Marty the winner? It says, which revision changes the underlying clause, the interrogative, to the indicative? The answer is D. Marty is the winner. Indicates. Indicative is in indicate. You know, if you use the root words from these things, you got to figure out what they mean. Number 3, they'll be surprised when you announce the winner. Which revision changes the underlying clause from the indicative to the conditional? They might be surprised. 4, the committee urged that Travis should consider his vote carefully. Which of the following is the best substitute for the underlying verb phrase in the sentence? The answer is A, consider. 5, if Lori was a candidate, I would have voted for her. Which of the following is the best substitute for the underlying word in the sentence? The answer is were. If Lori were a candidate. It's just a common misspeaking that we always say was, like it's already happened. Was is past tense. Okay, guys, this concludes everything. I hope y'all are doing well. I'll be back in a few days. If you've got any questions, you can't figure something out or whatever, ask them, or leave them for Miss Dahlgren, or leave them for your sub, and they can send me an email, and I'll be happy to respond to you. Have a nice day. Bye.